When you look into my eyes, you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it to you slowly, and it may sound scandalous. I don't think that you can handle this.
All right. Once again, we are on. He is the great Mike Steph. I am the MoJoKing, and this is Hidden Gems Football, brought to you by the 19 Media Group. Thank you for listening or watching or however you're getting it. Thank you. Mike Steph, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing a little bit better than I was last week. Well, last episode. I'm still fighting a cold, but I think I'm toward the tail end of that. So if I sound a little bit distorted, I apologize, but I'm doing okay. I'll say that I'm doing okay. For more in-depth analysis of what's going on, please check out the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast that drops now each and every Tuesday afternoon, at least for the football season.
Folks, check out the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph after you finish this podcast, especially since we talk about the NFC North. Last year, Mike Steph, you kind of struggled in this division. You were 1-3, but don't worry, I helped save you by going 3-1 myself.
The Chicago Bears really messed me up because I had them fighting for a playoff spot, and shoot, that was far from the truth. Minnesota probably surprised me too. Yeah, so they're gonna get my wrath. They're gonna feel the wrath. But 1-3, okay, no problem. So shoot, so I was 7-1 for the first two divisions. Now 8-4. So what? You're a game behind me, and now you're 7-6. You're 7-5. So okay. You know, just make sure you wear masks so you can deal with the exhaust fumes of me taking off again.
Let's just hope you didn't choke it away in the East. Got to show and prove. Let's see how we do this year. All right, let's start off with Chicago. The Bears. They were 5-12 last year. Offensive scoring, not very good, 28th ranked in the league. Defense, middle of the pack, 14th. The head coach is newly appointed, Ben Johnson, his first season as a head coach. He was the Lions offensive coordinator last year. He replaces Matt Eberflus. Offense coordinator, Declan Doyle, and the defensive coordinator is Dennis Allen. Running the show at quarterback will be second-year Caleb Williams. Last year, 3,541 yards, 20 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Backing him up, veteran Casey Keenum and Tyson Bagent. At running back, DeAndre Swift, just under 1,000 yards himself and 6 touchdowns last year, and Roschon Johnson, who had a modest 150 yards with 6 touchdowns. Wide receiver, led by DJ Moore, who had 98 receptions, 966 yards, and 6 touchdowns last year. On the other side, Rome Odunze with 54 receptions, 734 yards, 3 touchdowns in his rookie season. At the third receiver, we have a little bit of a battle. The second-round pick, Luther Burden III is there, but also veteran Olamide Zaccheaus is there. I think Zaccheaus might have the inside role, at least in the beginning. And then at tight end, there's also a split here. Cole Clement is the veteran, 47 catches, 474 yards, 4 touchdowns. But first-round pick, Colston Loveland, he is considered a super athletic tight end. It's probably his job to take over. All right, Mike Steph, I went over the offensive key positions. What do you think about this team as a whole?
Tell you the truth, I really don't think much of this team. And a lot of it is based on personal bias because they really messed up my prognostication last year. I thought they were going to be a better well-oiled offensive machine, especially, and they weren't. But I think a lot of that falls at the feet of Caleb Williams, his immaturity at that position, and also not being set up to succeed because you had a defensive-minded coach trying to tutor supposed wonderkin at behind center. So what did Chicago do? Like you said, they hired offensive mastermind Ben Johnson, whose Detroit units led the NFL in points per game last year, 29 points per game. The characteristics of his scheme are as follows: heavy play action, pre-snap motion, strong pass protection, and a dominant rushing attack, which are hoped to be established by the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams improving how quickly he gets the ball to his playmakers will be critical in what he's able to achieve in 2025. Here's one stat. Did you know that Caleb Williams had the 7th longest average time before passing in 2024? A trend that carried over from his days in college playing at USC and Oklahoma. Now we go to the running game, which was one of the least effective running games in the league last year, ranking at 31st in the league in both yards per game and yards per rush. Chicago didn't add a running back into the 7th round, so I guess, as you said, they're going to go with DeAndre Swift amongst others in that backfield to try to bolster their offense. So with all that being said, I'm looking down at this ticker. It says this over under for wins is 8.5 wins. And I am not going to be a sucker like last year. 7-10, 8-9. That seems about the realm that I see them in. So yeah, under.
I'm going to go with you as far as the under. I like a lot of things they've done here. They've revamped the offensive line, so it should be stronger. Caleb Williams was holding the ball too long, trying to make plays. I think he's going to improve. I expect a lot from Rome Odunze. I'll get back to him in a moment. But still, the running offense, I just don't think it's going to be that strong, even with the new coaching staff. Ben Johnson's going to probably need to get his footing. I don't think he's just going to come out running and the team's just going to go off. And since they were 5-12 last year, asking for a 4-game win increase just seems like a little bit too much for me. I think they're going in the right direction, but I'm still going to go with the under. As far as the fantasy twist, as I mentioned, Rome Odunze is taking over as the number 2 receiver. I expect him to cross 1,000 yards this year. He's someone to target in drafts.
One question. DJ Moore had 98 catches for how many yards?
966.
So that was less than 9.8 per catch. That in itself explains a lot of their struggles on the offensive side, because if your number 1 receiver has 98 catches and didn't even break the 1,000-yard barrier, what kind of plays were you designing? So there'll be an improvement, but like I said, the improvement from what they were last year to over eight wins, that's not going to happen. So it's going to be incremental.
Yo, what's up? I'm Desmond, and I'm the host of Hip to the Games, a podcast from 19 Media Group, where the brilliance of basketball and hip-hop's past and present is genuinely appreciated. Join me every other Friday as we celebrate some of the greatest artists, albums, moments, songs, bars, punchlines, NBA teams, players, just anything and everything to do with the game of rap and the game of basketball. See, if you like basketball and hip-hop, that means you're hip to the games. But no matter where you fall on that spectrum, I encourage you to join the fun every other Friday on your favorite podcast platform, courtesy of the great 19 Media Group.
Next up, the Minnesota Vikings. They were 14-3 last year, coming off of 7-10 2023. Remember back in 2022, they were 13-4 and won the division. Their head coach is Kevin O'Connell, NFL Coach of the Year. Entering his 4th season, he's 34-19 as a head coach. Offense coordinator, Wes Phillips. Defense coordinator, Brian Flores. A change at quarterback. J.J. McCarthy, 10th overall pick of 2024, is taking over for Sam Darnold. Remember last year, he had knee surgery and was out all season. At running back, 30-year-old Aaron Jones. He had 1,138 yards rushing with 5 touchdowns, and then added 51 receptions, 408 yards, and 2 touchdowns as a receiver. He also had a career high in touches at 306. The Vikings traded for Jordan Mason to help with Jones. You think he might steal some goal line work. At wide receiver, there is Justin Jefferson, one of the best, if not the best in the league. 103 catches, 1,533 yards, and 10 touchdowns last season. On the opposite side is Jordan Addison, 63 yards, 875 yards, 9 touchdowns, but he has a suspension coming. Number 3 receiver is likely Jalen Naylor, although third rounder Ty Felton is coming on strong. By the way, they did acquire Rondell Moore, but he looks like he will be out for the season. At tight end, TJ Hawkinson, who came off injury himself midseason, had 41 catches, 455 yards, and no touchdowns. Mike Steph, we talked about the offensive skill positions, but what do you think about this team as a whole?
I'm going to focus on the coaching because you said his record so far, 34-19. That shows consistency. That shows that he has instilled a culture, and that shows that the players have bought into said culture. He's done that. He's had 2 outstanding seasons with 2 vastly different quarterbacks. He had the 13-4 season with Kirk Cousins. Yes, I know they got eliminated in the first round, but neither here nor there. He got 13-4 out of Kirk Cousins. And then last year, he had Sam Darnold. Now, a lot of people think that they will be taking a step back due to this being J.J. McCarthy's technically rookie year, because he was injured. He was injured all last year, and that led the way for Sam Darnold to have his miracle season. I personally think they're not going to take the step back that people think they're going to, because I think there's a reason why McConnell chose J.J. McCarthy as this is going to be the heir apparent. This is the person I want to run this offense. This is the person I want to take us into the future. Now, like you said, you have Aaron Jones. He's probably going to take a step back just for the fact that he's 30 and he had over 300 touches. But Jordan Mason being in the backfield would help alleviate some of the load from Aaron Jones. And if we get the Jordan Mason that we got in large spurts from the 49ers when he filled in admirably for Christian McCaffrey, I think that would be a nice 1-2 punch. Of course, Justin Jefferson, can't really say much more about him that's been said. So with all that being said, and the defense was stellar last year, and I don't believe they're taking a step back this year. So with the defense combined with the culture, combined with the skilled players, I have a feeling that he was the chosen one for a reason. So that 8.5, I'm going to go over, because even if they're 9-8 and don't make the playoffs, yeah, that's a big drop from 14-3, but it still gets my bet. So 8.5 over.
Yeah, like you said, they were 14-3 last year with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is a boomer bust quarterback, takes high risks, sometimes makes bad mistakes, but it seemed everything bounced correctly for him last year. I think even if Sam Darnold was back, we would expect the wins total to drop significantly, even if he was good. But instead, you have J.J. McCarthy coming over. It's his second year, but like you said, it's basically his rookie year because he did nothing in year 1. On the flip side, Kevin O'Connell seems to find a way to make things work. We talk about that 7-10 year in 2023, but remember, he basically had no quarterback all season, or at least a good portion of it. It was kind of a miracle that he figured out ways to make that work to 7 wins and be competitive all season. I think that although they have a much tougher schedule this year, and like I said, I expect some breaks to go the wrong way, them losing 6 whole games from last year seems a little bit too aggressive to me as far as the over-under. So I am going to go over. Like you, I expect a 9-win or a 10-win season from this team. As far as a fantasy twist, with Jordan Addison missing those first 3 games, I think TJ Hawkinson is going to jump off to a hot start. I might want to trade Hawkinson after the first 3 weeks. I think he's going to go off a little bit, and then he may calm down a little bit once Addison comes back. All right, next up in the North is the Green Bay Packers. Last season, they were 11-6, made it to the wild card. 2023, they were 9-8, made it to the wild card. Their offense, as far as scoring, was 8th in the league. Their defense, 5th as far as least points given up. They are led by head coach Matt LaFleur, his 7th season, 70-38 as a head coach. Their quarterback is Jordan Love. Last year, he had 3,389 yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I believe he also missed a couple of games. Backing him up, Malik Willis. Remember when he took over, LaFleur changed the offense completely to fit for Willis, and he did a really good job. Running back, Josh Jacobs, came over from the Raiders and did work for Green Bay. 1,329 yards, 15 touchdowns. Also had 36 receptions for 342 yards. He's backed up by Emmanuel Wilson and Marshawn Lloyd, although I believe he has an injury now, and he definitely had an injury last year. At wide receiver, there's a myriad of them. I would say they're led by Jaden Reed, who had 55 yards, 857 yards, 6 touchdowns. But there's also Romeo Dobbs, Datavion Wicks, and first-round selection Matthew Golden. In addition, they have a third-round selection, Savion Williams. And don't forget, Christian Watson is out but expected to come midseason returning from an injury. At receiver, they're also deep. Tucker Kraft is the leader of the way. He had 50 receptions, 797 yards, and 7 touchdowns. But they also have Luke Musgrave, who I believe was ahead of Kraft until he got injured himself. Mike Steph, this team on offense is very deep. What do you think about them as a whole?
Well, I'm going to concentrate on the wide receiver situation, just like you mentioned. There's an anomaly with the wide receivers. That's the anomaly's name is Matthew Golden. You know what's an anomaly? He was a first-round draft pick. A first-round draft pick. Do you know he's the first receiver that the Packers have drafted in the first round since 2002? Meaning that Jordan Love, in his third, fourth season as quarterback, received something that Aaron Rodgers never did. And that was a first-round draft pick as a wide receiver. Now the belief is that if Jordan Love is to take the next step, then at least they gave him something that Rodgers never had, and that was a first-round receiver. Now, harping on the numbers that you had with Josh Jacobs had a workload. Do you know that he had 337 combined touches last year for 1,671 total yards from scrimmage? So keeping him healthy is at the utmost importance. But I think the focus really has to come on the Flair, because that overall record is outstanding. And just like you said, when he had to start Malik Willis in those couple games, did they miss a beat? Yes and no, because he was able to craft the game plan around the strengths of his signal caller. And that's what makes a good coach, not only just an offensive mind, but a good coach. So the over-under over here is 9.5 on the Packers. I went under with Chicago, and I went over with Minnesota. But over means 9-8. They're saying that the Packers are primed for another 10-win season. And I believe if Jordan Love is healthy, they can get 10 wins. Just based on LaFleur being on the sideline, it's guaranteed 10 wins. So I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you. Everything LaFleur has done just proves that this team is a winner. Last year, the figuring out how to manage the team after, remember coming into the season, everybody thought Love was just going to basically take over the league. And he struggled mostly with injuries, some inconsistency. And still, LaFleur found a way, just switched it over to a ground and pound game, and it worked out well. I can't see this team winning less than 9.5 games, so I'm going over myself. As far as this fantasy twist, I think one thing is that people are looking at the stats last year without thinking it over clearly. This team will pass a lot more. I think that it will be much more balanced and less run heavy. So while I expect still Josh Jacobs to be good. I'm maybe not quite what he was last year, and I expect Jordan Love to do much more. The main problem is they have so many weapons as far as receivers. You never know from week to week which one is going to do what. All right, last but certainly not least, the Detroit Lions. They were 15-2 last season, coming off a 12-5 season the year before, both times winning the division. Offensively, they were ranked number 1 in scoring, while defensively, they were ranked number 11 as far as points given up. Head coach Dan Campbell entered the season. He is 40-30-1. They have a new offensive coordinator, John Morton. He was the offensive coordinator of the Jets in 2017. Defense coordinator, Kelvin Shepard. At quarterback, Jared Goff. What a career resurgence he's had in Detroit. 4,629 yards, 37 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He is backed up by Kyle Allen. At running back, Jahmyr Gibbs leads the charge, 1,412 yards and 16 touchdowns. He also added 52 catches for 517 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he's not alone in the backfield. David Montgomery had 775 yards and 12 touchdowns of his own in only 14 games. At wide receiver, among the best, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 115 catches, 1,263 yards, 12 touchdowns. On his opposite end, up-and-coming Jameson Williams, 58 catches, 1,001 yards, 7 touchdowns himself. Number 3 wide receiver is likely Tim Patrick. Remember him having some big in Denver. He is in Detroit. But also rookie Isaac Tesla, 3rd-round pick. He's very raw but very talented. At tight end, speaking of talented, Sam Laporta, 60 catches, 726 yards, 7 touchdowns. Mike Steph, we talked about all the skilled players on offense with some coaching changes. What do you think about this team as a whole?
Frank Ragnow, their Pro Bowl center, announced his retirement during the offseason at the tender age of 29, leaving the Lions to figure out his replacement ahead of this big season. Now, Ragnow's retirement is a tremendous loss, especially after losing veteran Kevin Ziegler, who agreed to a off-season deal in Tennessee. Now, that's 2/5 of their offensive line. Their offensive line was, and a lot of people would believe would be their strength this year, as both in pass protection and run production. Everybody knows that Jared Goff has proved his naysayers wrong, but at the same time, he proved his naysayers wrong with the benefit of having a solidified offensive line in front of him. Now, if his offensive line is in shambles or going through a rebuilding process, how sure is he going to be and how confident he's going to be in that pocket? That means that remains to be seen. Now, defensively, I believe their downturn last year was mostly due to injuries. They do get Aiden Hutchinson back, hopefully at 100%. If they're healthy, 100% healthy, then maybe they will not fall short of their goal as they did last year. Because last year was Super Bowl bust, and they got eliminated in the divisional round. So getting back to this over-under, their over-under is 10.5. I'm going to go over. They were 15-2 last year. So even if they take a step back and lose 4 more games, that still leaves them at 11-6. I believe they're still a double-digit win team. So I'm going to go over.
I am very nervous about these coordinator changes, particularly on offense. I think there was going to be some regression anyway because it was one of those things that everything seemed to go right for them. And between the offensive line having some holes now that it didn't have before, and just natural regression, I didn't expect them to be as explosive this year. But like you said, their defense should be stronger. as long as they can stay healthy. I'm going with over. I think 11 or 12 wins seems reasonable. As far as a fantasy twist, like I said, I expect a little bit of regression kind of across the board with Detroit, except for one spot. Jamison Williams, he is peaking. I think last year we saw a glimpse of what he can potentially be. They've already talked about that they're running him different routes than they did last year. I think with the year experience, he's going to continue to grow. He's super fast. He's super talented. I expect him to clear last year's numbers pretty easily. All right, Mike Steph, before we get out of here, last question for you. Who do you think is going to win this division?
Lions. It would not surprise me if Green Bay gives them a battle. This division is stacked, but ultimately I have Detroit winning.
I expect this division to be pretty tough across the board. I expect all these teams to play really well. So is it possible one of them overturns the Lions? Yeah, it's definitely possible, but I'm rolling with Detroit until proven otherwise. All right, Mike Steph, take us home.
This has been a rough recording session. Hopefully the next one will be a little bit smoother. Thanks for everyone for hanging in with us through our little technical difficulties. Hopefully at the end, by the time you hear me wrapping this up, everything will be nice and seamless and y'all will have no idea what I'm talking about. But for some reason, I think this one is going to be a little choppy. With all that being said, let me get out of here before I cut off again. It ain't just football. If it's about 19 Media Group. Goodbye for now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still glitching.
The chicken's more reliable than the internet.
This is a 19 Media Group presentation.
25 seconds in, and you already talking about I blended in with the background? Damn. I understand. Listen, my brother.
Offensive coordinator, Declan Doy. Offensive coordinator, Declan. Wow. Offense coordinator, Declan Doy. Why can't I? 2 Ds.
Doy.
Hamstring.
A doy.
All right.
Not the parlays. You know, the ones that I actually was hitting on last year. The round robin?
Robins?
Yeah, the round robin. Round robin. Yeah, the round robins. Shout out to D&D. Y'all know who y'all are if y'all watching. I'm not going to put their names out there, but 1D put me on to the round robins. And the other D is engaged to the first D. So D&D, thank you, and I love them.
See, this is what we get for reviewing the NFC North. Like it's a black and blue division. This has been a black and blue recording session.